Heatherland. Heather, are you here?
I am here. Thank you for having me.
We're so excited.
Me too.
Um,
You're there in Nashville, right? At home.
That's right.
How is your quarantine going?
Well, once again, today is the greatest day of my life. Well, at least for the past 6 weeks or so, because I've put on real clothes. It's funny because at first I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like I can just throw my hair in a ponytail and wear sweats all day. But after about a week of that, I feel so disgusting. And so now I find myself like I just change pajamas like 4 times a day. I'm like a toddler. And I just constantly am rotating outfits just for some semblance of like, I just want to feel good for a minute. Because basically all I do is I've taken up sourdough bread baking with my fiance, and we just bake bread all day. And you can only give it to so many people, right? So we just eat bread. We literally like break it off in chunks, dip it in oil, eat it. I make cookies all day. We drink wine all day. And we rotate Netflix shows. Like, what else do you do? I mean, I've tried to be creative. I've Marie Kondoed my kitchen cabinets in my office. And what else is there? Like, I'll tell you this. I've got about 2 loads of clean clothes just laying in my bedroom floor. Because who wants to do that? Like, could I? Yeah. Am I going to? Probably not. Like, I'm going to give it another couple of weeks. I'm just going stir crazy like everybody else. I'm just trying not to lose it. I just have fresh bread. Come on, girls. There we go. Fresh bread out of the oven. So I'm ready for service today. Lay it on me.
Awesome. So we did actually send out a few videos through our social media accounts, so folks have a little bit of a taste of Heatherland. But can you talk us through your sort of like origin story and how that all kind of came to be?
Absolutely. I'll try to keep it a little bit short if I can. But I was raised in Tennessee, and I have 2 kids. I've been in the ministry most of my life. Actually, I was a worship leader for a really long time. And I went through a divorce. And by the way, that's something that is a little bit of a no-no in the church setting where I grew up. It's just not something that we do. So that was quite challenging. So I stepped out of ministry at that point just to kind of collect myself and actually to get a big girl job and work for the first time. Just to support my kids. So I actually moved home to Tennessee. I had been in Colorado and moved to my little hometown, and a friend of mine gave me a job. So I was doing refinancing, which was way above my head. But anyway, a friend of mine really believed in me or was desperate, either one. So he gave me a job, and I was doing that for a couple of years. And during that time, just making stupid Snapchat videos with a couple of my girlfriends, just privately. My kids thought I was an absolute moron. They still do. But I was just sending these videos back and forth, and they kept daring me, or just like trying to get me to post them online for months, and I wouldn't do it. And finally I took a really big dare on, and I posted my first video, and people started watching it, and they started telling me they loved my I Ain't Doing It video. And I literally called my friend, and I'm like, I don't understand what they're talking about with this I Ain't Doing It video. And I had to rewatch it because I didn't even know that I said I ain't doing it. It was an absolute accident. And anyway, people were kind of going nuts over it. Can you make more? And I'm like, yeah, I can make more. I live in Tennessee. There's plenty of material. So I made a few more, and then a blogger, Susanna Lewis, she came across one, and she said, can I post your video? And I'm like, I don't care what you do, whatever. I got a big girl job, so you post whatever you want. But she said, you're going to need to start a fan page. And I was extremely reluctant to do that. I said, I'm not trying to be somebody over here with these videos. Like, I got a real job. But she convinced me to start a fan page. I was mortified to do it. But on a Wednesday, I put this video up, and I put this fan page up. So on a Wednesday, September the 6th, I think it was, 2017, I started a fan page on a Wednesday morning, and before I went to church that night, it had 750 followers, which I thought was amazing. And when I came home from church, there were 45,000, and I just didn't know what to do. And for weeks, it just kept going and going. And I just kept posting videos on it and going to work and refinancing, trying to stay off of social media. And I think 2 weeks, roughly to the day, it hit like 500,000. And then a month to the day, it hit 1 million. And people were wanting me to come and do shows. And, I didn't even know, I'm like, what do they want me to do? Like refinance from the stage. I don't understand. Like, they don't even know I'm a worship leader. I'm clearly not a very good one, because that's not why they're wanting me to come. So what do they want me to do? And, my girlfriends who were checking my messages for me while I worked said they want you to come do comedy. So I quit my job and became a stand-up comedian, and here we are on Zoom.
A couple of questions as we dive into today's staff meeting. Karen, why are you late? Like, what could you have possibly been doing? It clearly wasn't your hair. So, yeah, I can't hear you, Karen. You're on mute. Oh, you're watching Ozark. Well, hey, until Jason Bateman starts paying your mortgage, I'm going to need you to come over here and Google Hangout with the rest of the team. We're sorry to bother you. And hey, Bill, I don't follow you into the bathroom at the office. I don't want to follow you into the bathroom on Zoom. Okay, like, you may be on mute, but we can still see. What a bunch of idiots. Like, I would rather be in Joe Exotic's next music video than to be on this staff meeting. I ain't doing it.
Quite
Unreal.
a thing to behold, like to have gone to your show. We had watched a few of your Snapchat videos online, but then to see you do stand-up, I mean, we were absolutely dying.
Were you really? So you
Oh.
laughed. That's a great thing. I'm glad to hear that.
I mean, the whole room.
Cried. I think we cried. We were
Oh.
it was the best night, best girls' night in a long time.
I'm so glad to
could
hear
not
that.
Keep it together.
Thank
It
you.
really-
That kind of is my
Yeah.
goal. I mean, people think they're coming just for a comedy show, but I really share my story. I sing some songs that I've written, and I really try to take everybody on the journey. But, when I first started, my first gig was at a church for a friend of mine doing a women's conference, and she wanted me to open all of her sessions with comedy, and I could barely do 5 minutes. And I went back to my room both nights and cried my eyes out. And I just said, I cannot do this. So I've gone from 5 minutes at a time to a 2-hour show. And it's just only the grace of the Lord. I don't know. It certainly is not me. I don't know how it's possible, but here we are, and I'm loving it. It's a lot of fun.
And it shows, because it's even more fantastic when you tell that story and say 2017. I feel like the whole room kind of gasps, because it feels like you've been doing this forever.
Mm-hmm.
That's what everybody
And-
says. Yeah.
So one of the guys on our staff, I've worked with him for like 25 years now. He's from Kentucky, Matt O'Neill. He's one of our co-pastors. I'm from New England. I don't really sound like it anymore, but I've been saying to him for years, he has so many like Kentuckyisms. I don't even know what to call them, that he says all these things like, ain't no bigger than a popcorn fart. And that's like putting lipstick on a pig, and all these things that I'm like, I got to write that down. I'm going to make a coffee table book out of all of these phrases from 25 years that I've never heard in my life. And I felt like hearing you, just watching your videos, all of the, I would rather, like, that would be the coffee table book I would buy. If there were greeting cards, I'd get them all. But like, there was something you said that night about a Baptist revival, that whatever I was drinking, I spit right out. Like, just tell us some of your favorite I would rather. Because
That is one of my favorites. That's why I use it in stand-up. I love that. I would rather sit on the front pew of a Baptist revival with a hickey on my neck. Because of my background. That one's funny to me.
Look. So, okay, look at here. Never in my life.
But I feel like, so each week you've been posting, I live for your videos, and each week I'm like, what is Corona Week 5 going to look like on Heather Lane? So it's like you were made to do this. You were made to do comedy. And I know it's a little bit of a spoiler alert, Watershed. It is in her book towards the end. But can you talk about, like, do you feel like it's just hardwired in your DNA? And then also just, what a refreshing perspective to be able to have in the midst of like this, right? Because I think laughter is the best medicine. But
Absolutely.
You're really good at it.
Thank you. You're sweet. And you know what? I really just so appreciate, church folks that can recognize that, because sometimes, there's always the religious haters that were like, I did like you, but then you prayed on a video and unfollow, like whatever, go for it. I think that you have to have a bit of a funny bone to get through life. And here's the truth. It is hardwired in me. I am so incredibly sarcastic, but the truth is, and you don't have enough time for this on this little show, it's probably childhood trauma, honestly, that has created, it's either curl up in the fetal position in a corner or learn to laugh. And I think I have just learned to laugh, and self-deprecation is my way. We got to make fun of ourselves. Like, I don't know how people that are uptight make it without that.
I did try CrossFit actually for a little bit, and the truth is it's like adult hazing, if you want to know the truth, and it should be illegal. That's my honest opinion on that.
The truth is, Sean, when I first started doing this, I was so truthfully embarrassed. I'm like, look, I don't want to, if I'm going to be known for something, like I want to be able to wear a fancy dress and walk down the red carpet with Ryan Reynolds. I don't want to be known as the I ain't doing it. Like that's not the kind of recognition I'm looking for here. Okay. But people, it's the truth, but people are constantly, for every hater, there are 5,000 lovers, right? And some people literally say like, I wanted to commit suicide, or this is the only thing that makes me laugh during the day. Like, thank you for doing what you're doing. And I finally decided, like, I'm going to take one for this big old team and make a fool out of myself, because, the truth is I would rather be known for that than a lot of other things. At least, it's making a difference for a lot of people. And I'm proud of that. I love that.
That night when we got to see your show, I mean, it was felt in the room. You took us on an emotional roller coaster is what you did, because we're all having a great time spitting out our drinks over your, I would rather. And then you sat down at the piano, and I noticed the piano off to the side, and you had mentioned you'd worked in church. I don't know if you had said you were a worship leader, but I think we were probably Googling you. I don't know what we were doing. And then you started to sing, and I was like, I was so awestruck by your voice and your songwriting that I didn't even take a video, which usually I would. Emily, who was with us, did, thankfully. Your songs aren't just about church or just about God. Tell us more about your music. I was like just floored by you. Absolutely.
You're
floored.
So sweet. Thank you. You're giving me a lot more credit. Like, people are going to be disappointed when they listen. In the church world, like I said, I don't feel like we give as a whole enough attention to the hurting when it comes to that subject. We've stricken so much fear into people when it comes to going through divorce, and especially a public one. I was married to a youth pastor, and a worship leader and a youth pastor just don't get a divorce. We just don't do that. So I felt like it was important to take people on my journey. One, because I like to be authentic. I don't know any other way, really. And two, because I want, while I have this platform and people sitting in front of me, real bodies, real women and men sitting there, I want to be able to say, it's okay for you to go through this, and it's okay for you to talk about it. So I think that's why it strikes emotion in people, because they're like, oh, I've been through a version of that, or I've been through a divorce, or I'm a single mom, right? So I've tried to really lay that down in my music. And then, of course, now I'm engaged. I have met the absolute love of my life. And so I wrote a song about him, and I'm able to kind of take people on that whole the overarch of the whole journey. You know, here's a song I wrote going through divorce. Here's a song I just wrote for the love of my life. And I think people find hope in it, you know. I hope they find hope. Anyway, that's the goal.
We were just like blown away. And when I got home, I started just digging into like, all right, I want to listen to everything she's ever written, everything she recorded. And we stumbled upon your duets you had done with, is it Ben Honeycutt? And
Yes, Ben Honeycutt.
Almost Peed My Pants.
Hey girl, I think I'm the coolest guy in the whole world. Why don't you come and get in my blow-up hot tub, hotter than the hottest club, and we'll cruise in my big truck as soon as my probation's up. Hey girl, what do you say? And I'd rather die 1,000 days than be called dead with you. And I'm ashamed you even know my name. I don't mean to be rude. Why are you still talking? Shouldn't you be walking? Don't you know your time is up? Hate to break it to you, boy. You suck.
We decided a few months ago, we do a series every year on dating and marriage, and it's very well attended. This was before church was all closed down. So we decided, one of the guys on staff, Austin and I, to cover your dating deal breaker song. And
Awesome.
because we loved it so much, but we added a verse to it from some of our own experiences. Mine was with a guy who liked to play video games, and he had a bunch of bottles on his windowsill, and I asked why he had so much lemonade in his room. And he said he didn't have time to go to the bathroom, which was next to his room. But anyway, we wrote it into the song.
I wish I could tell you this wasn't from my own dating experience, but it is. The one I'm about to sing. Boy, hey, what are all those bottles of lemonade open on your windowsill?
Girl, hey, when I'm in the middle of my video games, I don't like to take breaks. Girl, hey, they're not lemonade.
I'd rather have a kidney stone than be alone with you. Or poke a butter knife in both my eyes and play Fortnite. Yeah, it's true. I really think we're done here. Holler back in 10 years when you decide to grow up. Hate to break it to you, boy. You suck.
And so I'm standing in Noda, which is a little arts district near us, with my son a few weeks ago. And this girl comes up to me and she goes, "Hey, are you a pastor?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, apparently, yeah." And she goes, "Well, I came to your church a few weeks ago for the first time. Were you the one that sang about pee and lemonade bottles?" And I was like, "Yes, that would be me." And my son looked at me like, "What's happening right now? And what's this about?"
Well, you kind of got a little taste of what I'm talking about when I said this is not how I want to be known, right? Like they didn't come to you saying, "God, I love the way that you sang Ever Be." No, they said, "Are you?" Yeah. So you get it. But hey, it's touching people, right? They're relating. But I do think, I know this is not part of the question and this is going a little deep, but I do think that relatability is everything. It is everything. And us all realizing that we are equals and we've all been through the thing or we're going through the thing and we are not any one better than the other. I'm not too good to stand up and sing about a boyfriend who peed in jars, right? Like that's what the church needs more of. So I applaud you guys.
Thank you.
So I love that you tell us the sort of arc of the story, like Taryn was talking about with the journey. But I know life post-divorce is wonderful because I saw the little video you getting proposed to in Paris. That's amazing. Congrats. But do you still talk to your ex? What does that look like? I mean, you've got kids. How do you navigate that? We've got a lot of families, I think, who are in that place.
Exactly, which is why it's a great question. We have gone through 6 years of a lot of healing individually. We get along great. He has remarried. Of course, we have 2 kids together, and the kids, he lives close now, about 15, 20 minutes away. So the kids spend a week with us, a week with them, and they're just back and forth, which works great. And he's remarried. He's got a lovely, lovely wife. She and I get along beautifully. We go get our nails done, and she texted me today, "How are you doing?" And we just get along beautifully. They just had a baby, which is hilarious. The baby looks just like him. It's just a strange turn of events. Steven, my fiance, and I babysit for them. Well, not during quarantine, but yeah, it's crazy. And his wife, she's great. She's great to my kids. They have gained a big sister out of the whole thing. So it's going great. She's young. In case y'all didn't get that joke, she's very young. It's fine. Steven's younger than me, so that's why I can joke about it. Okay.
Right.
She's wonderful, and we've gone through a lot of healing. Obviously, there are reasons we got divorced, so it was not smooth sailing for the first few years, but a lot of forgiveness and a lot of getting over it. And I'll just say this for anyone who's going through it. And I remember the first year just feeling like, am I ever going to be normal? Like, now I have to check a box on my taxes that says divorce. Like, this just defines me, and I hate it. I felt like everybody was staring at me, and it was so weird. You just feel so isolated, even though the majority of the country has gone through it. But you do come out of that. And if you work on yourselves and address the reasons that this didn't work out, and really take it inward and say the necessary apologies and do the work and go to counseling and whatever you need to do, it can be beautiful. I mean, I literally look at them as a couple, my ex-husband and his wife. I literally look at her like she is my friend and this is her husband. It's the strangest thing. It's like I don't even remember that time in my life. And I'm so, so grateful. Like, obviously, I know we have children together. I see them. They live with me. But I don't associate anymore. And it's beautiful and freeing. And it's amazing for our spouses to come into that space where there's peace. Our kids are happy. So there is life after divorce. And I'm extremely grateful for it.
I was like, and there's life after dating, after divorce.
Gosh, so I've had some horrendous dating stories, as you well know. I mean, I don't even recognize myself during some of that time. I'm like, I can't even believe I made these choices for myself, much less like for my children. I can't believe that I even entertained a few things.
See, the problem when you are limited on your choices and you're in a small town is that after a while, fried bologna starts looking like steak, you know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, he's not that bad. No, it's not that bad. Slap a little mayonnaise on him, put him between 2 pieces of bread, he'll be just fine. He'll be just fine. Let me tell you something. When your only choices in men are between a guy who owns his brand spanking shiny new pair of grown-up roller skates, yeah, or a guy who puts his blow-up hot tub in his front yard,
And I can imagine, because I have many friends, especially in our Watershed community, that are newly single, post-divorce, and are single parents. And things have changed in the dating landscape since they had last dated. So I've been married for a while, and they're telling me things, and I'm like, I don't know about directions of swiping. I don't know any of this, but
Yeah.
I can imagine things were a little different than they were the first time you had dated a future youth pastor. So
Oh, you better believe. Well, when I went to Bible college, I mean, it's ring by spring or your money back. Like, we're looking for a ring, getting our MRS degree, as we used to say. Like, that's what we were there for. And if you wanted that bad enough, you could make it happen. Yeah, obviously the game has changed. And when I started dating again, I didn't do online dating. I never did that. I couldn't do it. It wasn't for me. It's for a lot of people. I think that's great. That wasn't for me. But some of the fools that I went out with, I'm just like, I don't even know how you function in real life. I could never live like this with another human being that operates in the way some of you idiots operate. Luckily, I met Steven on the road. He was my production manager on the road, and we jumped a bus and, lived together for 4 months with a bunch of people and fell in love with in a matter of a couple of weeks, and have been together ever since for a couple of years now. But luckily, he was grown and mature and ready for, something real. And a lot of people aren't, so I think that one thing that was very key for me is the knowledge that, I may be single forever, but that's okay. It's better than settling down with some of these morons running around out here with blow up hot tubs in their front yard and peeing in jars because they can't quit gaming. I got no use for that business. So look, if you got to stay single for a while or for your whole life, go for it. Okay. It's you and Jesus. You can do it. You can make it.
I couldn't help we were of course like sobbing through it, but when you sang Counting On at your show, where were you in your divorce journey when you were writing that?
I was actually separated, and I was living in Colorado Springs, and I had just, I was just broke as a joke. I mean, I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. Luckily, I was getting child support, and I had this little, job that was helping me get a little apartment. And so I had a little apartment with my kids, and I had the most beautiful, I haven't told this in so long. I won't get into the story, but I just really was at a desperate place in my life. And a girlfriend of mine said, before I got this apartment, she said, "What do you really want from the Lord?" And I said, "I just want a place to live." And she said, "It's okay for you to have dreams and specifics." And I said, I just want an apartment with a view. Like, I just want to be able to see Pikes Peak. I want to see the mountains, but I'm not asking the Lord for that because I just want to make it right now. And I'll never forget, this condo that I had really wanted came open, and somebody found it for me. And I was like, okay, I'll go look. And I walked in, and the girl said, "This one just came available. And we have a couple of others, but this is the only one with a view." And she pulled back these blinds, and it was just this beautiful view of Pikes Peak. And I said, "I'll take it." And I moved into that condo, and it was just the most beautiful gift from the Lord. And it chokes me up. And it was just a peaceful place. And I had my piano set up right by the window where I could see Pikes Peak. And I just sat down one day, and I was just praying, and I was so angry. I mean, I was just so mad and just spitting it all out. And after that conversation with the Lord, I just paused, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. But when I have another relationship, there are some things that I'm going to do differently. And there are some things that I'm counting on in this next relationship. And so I just sat down and wrote Counting On in about 10 minutes. And yeah, it's kind of been an anthem for me.
I live my life to find a dream. I'm not sure where it all went wrong. Love that's only made for me. That is what I'm counting on. I know in time he'll come my way. Stay by my counting on. We live in love, or so say. Well, let it be, dear Lord, I pray. Keep this loneliness at bay. That is what I'm counting on. With me to the end. Lover, fighter, faithful friend. And everything as an I am. That is what I'm counting on. With me to the end. A lover, fighter, faithful friend. And everything as an I am. That is what I'm counting on. That is what I'm counting on. Yeah. That is what I'm counting on. That is what I'm counting on.
I wrote it in such a desperate place, but it's really being on the other side of it and hearing those lyrics. I've gotten everything that I was counting on, as I was writing that song. So it's been turned into kind of a song of redemption. So it's been sweet.
It's incredible. And I know there's so
That's
many
amazing.
people that need to hear that's possible.
Mhm. It is possible. Yeah, don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. And like I said, even if it's not looking great, or, hey, I may have to be alone, the goal is peace. The goal is not even necessarily companionship. That may be a desire, but for me, it was, I just want to live in peace with me and my kids and my Creator. And then, you know what, God, if you have somebody for me, what a blessing. And He has had somebody for me. And I believe that if that's, your desire, He's got that for you too.
I visited a new church this past Sunday. What? What denomination? Oh, no, it was non-denominational. Which is totally a denomination. It was super relevant, though. I mean, they had a coffee bar, a smoke machine. I mean, good grief, I had no idea I was walking into a One Direction concert. It was epic. And you, Pastor, your message and your skinny jeans were on point. I wish I could have met you, but you weren't actually there. Simulcast. I appreciate getting the opportunity to text my offering. That was great. Or check my Facebook. I'm going to tell you what, I would have rather eat gluten-free communion crackers than to be a visitor at church. I ain't doing it.
So tell me about what church has been like for you and what your experience has been with that.
I was raised very sheltered. I had a lot going on in my home, though I won't really get into that, but I was raised in an addiction. My mom is actually a recovering addict. And so I was raised in that my whole life, and I was raised in addiction, but going to church every Sunday and pretending like everything was okay, because I don't think my family knew how to navigate it. I don't think they were trying to do anything wrong. They just, it's hard to be candid and open when you've got that going on in your life, and I don't think their generation knew how. So I had all this dysfunction in my family, and then I had a church. So church was sort of its own savior for me, and I find a lot of I'm grateful for it. It's what I needed at the time. However, growing up, and I think honestly in my adult years, I have really seen how, a lot of people in the church, we say that we are open, that we don't judge people. That's such an anthem, I think, for a lot of Christians. But I have noticed that older I've gotten and the more our world has changed and people have become open with who they are and choices they make. When I was growing up, you couldn't eat, if you even looked at a drink, you're going straight to hell. We don't drink, we don't cuss, we don't dip, drink, cuss, smoke, or chew, or hang out with boys that do. Cheers. But since I have gotten older, and I have watched just a lot of people in my life, and even being on social media, seeing people write in and watching hurt people express themselves and things that they go through, I have noticed that a lot of religious people, we want to argue about it, and we have become more concerned with letting people know why we're right and why we disagree with them than we have become with actual people. And if I'm being honest, it's really disgusted me and almost, I would say, hurt me. I mean, I feel my nose getting red as I feel like I'm tearing up a little bit. It has hurt me. And I know that there are so many different ways to look at it. I know the side of holiness, and I know the side that, people argue, well, God is unhappy with this, or this is not what the Bible says, or, just so many things that we truly could argue and that may be legitimate. I truly don't know. I have just realized that my greatest concern as a believer is, I just want to love people. I used to surround myself only with people who thought exactly like I did. And I've realized that was to my detriment. And so my eyes have just been opened, I think, the older I've gotten. And the more I want to embrace people, and the more I want to kind of get in the sandbox and play with the underdogs and with the reprobates and with the ones who are shunned, because I don't feel as a whole like the Christian world does a good enough job of that. And I'm not here to be its savior or say that I have the answer. But for me personally, that's where I want to land. I would rather, I would rather.
I was like,
where I was going.
We're going to get an original. I would rather.
That would have been a great opportunity, but I'm really trying to stay serious here. I do want to get to heaven and, God say, thank you for loving on people. And I think I could be wrong, but if his character is what I think it is, I think he's probably more interested in that than a lot of things that I have thought he was interested in. And even my view of who God is has changed. My view of the way I read scripture. The older I get, the less I know and the less I understand, but the more at peace with that I am. I don't know if you have the answers. I don't know if this scripture or this scripture is literal. I just don't know. But I know my heart, and I know my relationship with God, and I know that I love people. And that's honestly about where I land these days.
It's funny that you say that, because when I was at the show, I felt like a different church experience. I know that sounds so weird, but there's like this ministry of presence that's there. So when I see you do a video about like the dadgum carpool line at school or CrossFitters, I'm like, I think of the Beatitudes. I'm like, we are the little people who are stuck in this rat race. And I just love that I ain't doing it, because it's sort of saying like, I refuse to fall into the rat race of trends, or to fall into this notion of what is materialistic or whatever society is holding up for us that is empty. And so to me, that makes sense, what you just said. And I feel like your sense of humor is a ministry of presence and such a gift to us. I don't know. I feel like I do go to church with you.
You are so sweet. And honestly, that's a huge compliment. And even if you were lying to me, I would still like tell me that all day long, because the truth is, it does feel like that for me too, in the sense that it's making people laugh. And, of course I have all kind of people just say, you're so mean and you're so, you're such a B word and you're so snarky and all that. And really, here's the truth. Everything I say, we all think it. But even I don't go up to people. I'm not mean to people. I would never say half of these things that I say on a video to people ever. But it's in there. It's in my brain. It's, it's inside of us. And it's okay to be human. It's okay to be human. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you're in such good company with our community as I'm, Sean, as I'm listening to what she's saying about the people who've been hurt or, jaded or feel like they don't belong in the underdogs. I mean, I feel a lot like Watershed about your metaphor about you didn't want to be the I ain't doing it lady, you wanted to be with Ryan Reynolds on the red carpet. Like Watershed's about 15 years old and we're not a huge community by any means, but Charlotte is known for their mega churches. And I'm sure you've heard of many of the pastors and the Smoke and Light show that happen here. And there have been times where it's like, what are we doing? And then we're reminded when we look around and we see our people are our church. I mean, that's why this isn't hurting us that much to not like have our Smoke and Light show, because we didn't have one anyway. That like it's okay to be where we are and not all believe the same. It's definitely not a homogenous community. Sean could probably elaborate on that even better than me, but you're in good company.
Oh, well, I once again just I already feel really at home here. And I kind of dug in on y'all a little bit before we got on this call and before I actually met you guys. But I love that about you. And I think that, we get caught up in the smoke show and the light show, and in the performance, and we don't mean to. I think we start out with good hearts and good attitudes and right intentions. And for a lot of us do, some of us don't. Some of us want the recognition, but I think we've tried to model it. We've tried to be the Church of Acts, and we've tried to do it the right way. But once again, I think we have, it's caused us to lose sight a little bit. And so I just commend you guys for loving people. That's where it's at.
We are a very eclectic sort of group of folks. There are some people who walk through the door who have had no church experience. There's some people who walk through the door who've had a very similar experience that, like the one that you described. There are folks who are in sort of various phases of deconstruction or reconstruction or just construction in general. So it's this like motley crew of people. And for going over a year now, we've had just folks from church stand on stage and talk about what's saving them right now. And the answers never fail to blow me away. Like what people respond with, and then what you realize, like what you're talking about, the hurt that people carry inside and never don't show up to it, on a Sunday normally. And so we would love to ask you, like right now in the midst of COVID-19, what is saving you right now? Or maybe what was it that was saving you when you had to trek cross country and reimagine your life post-divorce?
Wow, that is a deep question. I think right now what is saving me is bread and wine, literally. That's the truth. It's not a spiritual answer, but it's an honest one. People who get you, even if it's one person, I think everybody needs somebody who gets them. And I think in our home, we've cultivated a safe space. And so right now, there are 4 of us here, and we are just making it okay for everybody to be who they are. And this is probably for a later conversation, but Stephen and I, we don't believe the same. We don't believe exactly the same. We're even, my kids, I think, are on their journey too. Obviously, we're always on this journey of figuring out exactly what we think and what we believe, but we try to really make it a safe space for each other. to be who we are and to express, the doubts and the fears and the, just wherever we are in the moment. And I think that in every phase I've been in, when I was going through my divorce, when I was, in the valley on the mountaintop, as we say, I think having people in my corner has pulled me through every single time. That's it for me.
That's so bread and wine all the way. Love that answer.
The bread and wine.
Yeah. Communion. And
communion. That's right.
You're talking about your relationships. There was this part in your book that I loved where you said, our need to portray a life of accomplishment far outweighs our desire to illustrate truth and actuality. We don't crave relationships of perfection. We crave relationships of authenticity.
Did I write that?
Yes.
That sounded great.
I got it right here. I highlighted the daily out of it. That's awesome. You're a real author. I mean, really, truly. Like there were so many wonderful things, but that whole thing of like, I'd rather have authentic over perfect. We've had people, I literally had a friend visit Watershed and someone had shared, maybe it was their What's Saving You on a Sunday. And she's like, love your church, a little too raw, a little too honest for me. It makes me uncomfortable. And I was looking back at your videos, like even your doctor's office gynecologist Snapchat, like it looked like that date was like early on in this, like your journey.
Karen, you can't say gynecology at church.
Whoops. Right. They're never going to come back now.
See, it's too raw. But like it all seems like the closer you got, or the more open you got with your life and became about sharing your struggles and your story and being less perfect and more honest. It seemed like that was your path to healing, or at least in your writing that comes through. And that for me is like, I think we all struggle with that, but like, what do you have to say to all of us who are like, just on that, like we need to, especially in the South, I'm not from the South. So that whole, like, keeping up the facade, it's such a big thing here, but like, talk to us about that path of healing, of just letting it all out.
Well, first of all, I want to kind of throw it back on you for a second and say that honestly, what that person said to you could really feel like, kind of a punch in the gut. But the truth is, what a compliment. Because even though that one individual may not be ready to get authentic with their own life, and that's really what they're saying, the fact that the reason they're not coming back is because you're too real. Well done, friend. Like, that's the kind of church I want to be at. And you can't make everybody, want to get real with their lives. They're not all there, right? There's an expectation. There's a buttoned upness that some people like with church. I personally, that's the one thing I'm done with. I just don't want any part of that. And I think that this is just what I found in my human experience with other people, is that they want something they can relate to. People don't want to hear about your rainbows and unicorns. Okay. They don't want to hear you won the lottery. They want to hear about your addiction and your divorce, and they want to know you had an abortion. What? Like, they want to know that they're safe to bring their dirt. And if we can make it okay, if we can talk about our own junk, it makes it okay for other people to be open and honest too. Because guess what? None of us are without some kind of skeletons in the closet. None of us are without blame for something. Nobody's perfect. Why would I sit and pretend like I am? Why would I not talk about going to the gyno? Do you go? You're a woman. Of course you do. I mean, I haven't been in a few years. I need to go back. But I'm just saying, like, that's a human thing that we do. Why can we not talk about that? Why can we not make that funny? I'm just under the impression that people crave authenticity. They crave the real. It's what matters. And to be honest with you, I have never said out loud, except on this call, that I was raised by a mother who was an addict. I've never said that, but I'm in counseling right now, if you want to know the truth. And I think it's the greatest money I've ever spent. But I'm having to sort through these things from my history. And what I'm finding is that It's been such a source of shame and hurt and trauma. But me talking about it, the truth is, I want other people to eventually, when I can tell the full story, I want people to go, I think I need counseling, because you know what? My husband's an addict, or my son's an addict, or I'm an addict, but we don't talk about it. We're so afraid of shaming ourselves or shaming the people in our story that we hide it. And I just don't think that, I mean, aren't we done with that? Like, aren't people tired of fake? I have just got no interest. It makes me nauseated. And you know what? I'd rather say too much than not enough, wouldn't you? There's a lot more fun in it.
Yeah, I don't struggle with that one too much. What is that? I'm sure you're an Anne Lamott fan. She says if people wanted you to write about them warmly, they should have behaved better.
There you go. That's right.
That's right.
But I love that you're not only willing to share that with us, Heather, but that you're doing the hard work. I mean, we continually say, like, we all need to be in counseling. We all should be in counseling. We all better continue to keep our counselors in business, which I think Watershed single-handedly does. Right, Sean?
Into your open arms I fall, grace given when I call. Your presence feeds my desperate soul. You're perfect, the truest love to know. The glory in the shadow. You are what I need. Satisfied and lonely for eternity. Sustain my every thought. Help me speak your truth. Stronger in my weakness. It's all because of you. You are the glory in the shadows. The glory in the shadows. The glory in the shadows.
Heather, we just want to thank you so much for joining us, for taking time out of your day to spend a little bit of time with us and share your story and be so vulnerable and authentic. I think that's what we need in all times, in big heaping doses. So thank you for that. And maybe just as like a little send off, what advice would you give to our community or anybody about being themselves and being themselves authentically? Like, what does that look like to be brave, to just let it be?
Gosh, well, I'm certainly nobody to give advice, that's for dang sure. But I will say that, you know, there's a lot of freedom that comes with being authentic. And it's hard to put yourself out there. I mean, that first step of, oh gosh, I mean, I remember the first time I, when I started doing comedy, I'm like, my girlfriends would be like, oh, tell this story. And I'm like, I can't say that. That was about a real person, like, I can't tell this story. But finding a way to navigate that where I'm not, hurting anybody or shaming anybody, but still being able to tell, hey, this is my story. There is a lot of healing that comes with saying it out loud. And I think if we could all remember that we are on level playing field here, like we are none better than the other. There is not a one of us on this call in this church that you guys are leading in Charlotte. Nowhere are we above one another. And I think if we can get to a place where we are less concerned about what other people think about who we are and more concerned about who we want to be, and even who God says we are, I think that is key. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of bravery, and you have to give zero cares about, about what people think about you. And it's hard to get there, but it is a journey worth taking. And you guys are amazing for what you're doing. I hope that you really know from the bottom of my heart that I mean this. You guys are the real deal. and are truly making a difference. And if I was in Charlotte, you would be the place I would land. And I just hope beautiful things for you guys and your families and your communities. And yeah, let's make it through quarantine.
I know, right? Like I've kind of felt like when you said yes to us, like we better get you now while we still can, because I mean, seriously, you're so much more than funny, though. You really are. And I was thinking about, once again, I overquote Anne Lamott, but she talks about how laughter is carbonated holiness. Mm-hmm. And from being in the room at your show to watching you online, to my friends that didn't even know I was a major fan of you, sharing what I know you hear this all the time, but like everywhere you go and even online, you're creating holy ground for people. And it means a lot to us, especially right now more than ever. We need to laugh. And you being willing to take the time to talk with us is just huge for us. So we are excited for your new chapter with Stephen. We can't wait to see whatever pictures you guys post of your wedding, and for your family, and how you're showing us to be a blended family and doing it with love. I know that's so encouraging to so many people who are walking that path. You mean so much to us, and we love you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You have fed my ego today, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'm walking away feeling awesome. Thank you, gals. Y'all are really
Cheers.
awesome.
Love it. Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you again. And the lyrics couldn't be more timely for what we're all experiencing right now. And so this is Emily Smith's video recording of that night at the concert, and we thought it would be a beautiful way to close this morning.
I've seen fighting in the streets, watched in disbelief the wars we fought, we're still fighting now. I've lost faith in politicians, questioned my religion, seen hate I can't wrap my head around. And I've met all the deceivers, I've been left by all the leavers. So why am I still standing here a believer? I'm still in love with this crazy world. There's nothing it could do to make me love it. Give up on it sometimes, I must confess.